State of Georgia versus Marcus Eberhardt. We, the jury, find the defendant of all counts.
Developing tonight, guilty verdicts. Former East Point Police Sergeant Marcus Eberhardt found guilty on all charges, including felony murder. This in the 2014 tasering death of Gregory Towns.
Well, the jury found his co-defendant, former Police Corporal Howard Weems, guilty of lesser charges, including involuntary manslaughter. Now, the prosecution in this case argued that the taser was a violation of policy since Towns was handcuffed at the time.
The defense, however, claimed Towns' death was caused by an illness that had absolutely nothing to do with being tased.
Well, Fox 5's Patty Pan was in court today for that verdict.
Well, after a day of deliberations, the jury did come back with a verdict just before 6 o'clock tonight. The jury, composed of 5 women and 7 men, found Sergeant Marcus Eberhardt guilty on all counts, and they found Corporal Howard Weems guilty on 4 of the 10 counts. Now, this is the courtroom as a verdict came down just before 6 o'clock. The jury found Sergeant Eberhardt again guilty on all counts and Corporal Weems guilty on involuntary manslaughter, reckless conduct, and oaths of office counts. Now, the two were accused of tasing 24-year-old Gregory Towns to death back in April of 2014. They were called to a domestic dispute when Towns apparently ran. Now, the officers found him a short time later and cuffed him while trying to get him back to the patrol car. Towns apparently said that he was out of breath and couldn't stand, and that's when the prosecution says that the officers tased him. He later died. Now, I can tell you that Sergeant Eberhardt was taken to custody immediately after this verdict was read. The 2 former East Point officers are due back in court on Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the morning for motions and sentencing. That is the latest outside Fulton County Courthouse. I'm Patty Pan, Fox 5 News.
Shortly after the split verdict was reached today in the murder trial of Howard Weems and Marcus Eberhardt, our cameras caught up with the attorneys from both sides.
Now, the lead prosecutor says justice was served, while an attorney for the defense says they plan to appeal the jury's decision.
He did something in this case that should have never been done, and so it was important to our office to restore confidence in our criminal justice system, to let people know that if you are doing the wrong thing, that the system applies equally to everyone, to police officers as well as civilian defendants.
There's actually 3 victims. I mean, obviously Mr. Towns, but his family, but obviously the 2 officers. We respect the verdict. We think they got it wrong, and there will be appeals in the case.
Well, family members of Mr. Towns briefly commented after that verdict was reached. They said they're happy with the jury's decision and feel that this will help them find peace.
Former Corporal Howard Weems will remain free on bond until he reports to court on Wednesday. He'll be joined by former Sergeant Eberhardt at 10 o'clock in the morning for their sentencing. Of course, we will be there and we will report the results of that hearing on air and online. You can receive alerts sent directly to your smartphone on the Fox 5 Atlanta app.
Georgia cop sentenced to life in prison for tasering handcuffed man to death in a judicial decision that is sure to send shockwaves throughout the law enforcement community. A Georgia cop was sentenced to life in prison Wednesday for tasering a handcuffed man to death in 2014. On April 11, 2014, East Point Police Sergeant Marcus Eberhardt was upset at having chased Gregory Towns through the woods after responding to a call of domestic violence. But Towns, 24, became winded and had given up by the time Eberhardt and his partner, Corporal Howard Weems, caught up to him, as we reported last year when the cops were indicted. The cops handcuffed him and ordered him to walk, but Towns said he was too tired to walk, so he asked the cops 10 times for a few minutes to allow him to catch his breath. But the cops started tasering him in an attempt to get him walk, tasering him 10 times within a 30-minute period, including one point where he was in the water in a creek. He ended up dying on the scene. A witness photographed the above photo, which was used as evidence against the cops. Weems was sentenced to only 5 years in prison and will only have to serve 18 months because he was found not guilty of felony murder and aggravated assault, but guilty of involuntary manslaughter, reckless conduct and violation of oath of office. Corporal Howard Weeks, left, and Sergeant Marcus Eberhardt, right. Corporal Howard Weems, left, and Sergeant Marcus Eberhardt, right. According to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the judge did not have the leeway to offer Eberhardt a lighter sentence because he was found guilty on all charges, including felony murder and aggravated assault. An autopsy determined that Towns suffered from heart disease, which was used as an excuse by the officer's attorneys for his death, but the jury did not buy it. The defense attorneys also argued that police have the right to taser people when they are not complying, but the jury did not buy that excuse either, which is surprising considering how often juries succumb to the blue privilege theory.